Benetton maintained their unbeaten start to the season. My name is Mark, let's talk rugby. Benetton have most of the ball early on, but they do see prop Ferrari having to go off for an early HIA. Shifted a bit of a kind of a heavy knock and seemed to, he played on for a couple of minutes, but then he did finally go for that HIA. Didn't look right after that. Seemed to shift a bit of a bang to the head. But then, they've got a lot of the early ball. They've got a good mix as well of carrying and kicking that's helping them to make some ground, but not really threatening too much in terms of, scoring points. Stormers then, first real chance comes from just a punt down the field into space. Zas goes over the line, but there was clearly a knock on by, I don't know who the Stormers player was, but pretty much contesting for the bouncing ball and hit it forward very clearly. So, Zas maybe for a second thought he scored, but it was definitely not going to be awarded. But they do get a penalty shortly after for Benetton not rolling away to go into the corner, go to the maul, but Lorenzo Canone gets right into the middle to disrupt. The maul gets within 5 meters. The backs then come in from the Stormers to try and help them, but all they succeed in doing is actually collapsing it, and it's turnover ball to Benetton. They then scramble it clear from the resulting scrum. Was under a lot of pressures. Stormers really put the squeeze on them. Didn't go that far. Stormers then have another line out into 22, but here then the throw from into Benny is crooked, and they struggled with their line out the whole game, whether it was into Benny or Dweba throwing in. It didn't seem to matter. Benetton worked the ball upfield. They have penalty advantage to the 22. Albanos then puts a nice little grubber kick straight through, close to the post. I think it was Gallant comes across, covering, and just completely air kicks the ball. I don't know why he didn't just dive on it. But Zanon does dive on the ball and he scores. So, not the best I think it was Gallant who came across. But there were some great carries from like Lamro and Negri and both, Canone in there as well, in the build-up, and most of the pack really were involved in the build-up to that. Albanos converts for 7-0. Nicotera then off feet of the ruck. It's a kickable penalty, but Stormers decide to go to the corner with the penalty. They did a lot of that today. They kind of turned down the points, trying to score in sevens when, the possibility was there just to keep that scoreboard ticking over. And I'm not sure whether it, in the end, it cost them or not, because again, you can't say whether one kick so early in the game actually, determined the outcome or not, because that completely changes both teams' approach to it depending on who's leading. But they do go to the corner, go to the maul again. Benetton disrupted, although this time Nemer comes in at the side. With advantage then, Duplessis, he kicks cross field into the in-goal area. Scusson is up there first, taps the ball back, and Gallant is able to touch down to score. Converges a miss 7-5. So this time the right decision to go to the corner from the Stormers, and that's it. If you come out with the try, you look like geniuses, and if you don't score at all, you look like fools for turning down the points. So it's all about those little fine margins in this game, and especially in this game in particular. Then we have a late hit on Lamro from Scusson, gives Benetton a chance right at the restart. Albanos nails the kick for 7-5. Benetton then return the favour and infringe at the restart after that one. Stormers go up the line, they set up the maul, and this time Benetton just can't halt them at all. They drive over, and end to Benny is the score. Conversion is missed, and we're 10-all. We're tied up just before half time. Evan Roos then gives away just a silly penalty as he takes Rhino Smith, he was going up to contest a high ball. Like, Ruse wasn't going up there at all, but there was no guarantee that Smith was going to get it either, because there was another Stormers player actually going up to compete with him, but Ruse just comes completely across him and takes him out. Not even eyes on the ball at all. But from the kick, Albanos, he's wayward, misses to the right. Looks like, it's going to be all square at half time. Stormers kick the ball upfield, but Rhino Smith is having none of it. He decides he's going to drop a goal from almost halfway. It was such an amazing kick. 13-10, Benetton lead at the break. Into the second half then, Benetton, they're holding on to the ball for the first sort of 5 minutes of the half. Evan Ruse then gets over the ball, wins a penalty, and that kind of kick-starts the Stormers. They go up the line for the penalty, make some great ground after the attack off the line out. They suck in the defence on the left-hand side, and Skuzan then strolls into the corner on the right-hand side, as there was just no defenders left by the time they spread the ball out. Duplessis converts from the touchline, 17-13. Stormers hit the lead for the first time in the game. Turns out to be the only time in the game. Benetton then come forward, upping the tempo, putting it through the hands. Looks like they've lost some momentum as they're pushed back from the edge of 22 and round about to halfway, but they reset and Albanos gets it wide. Mendy then draws the cover and puts Isakor over in the corner to score. Umaga converts for 20 points to 17. We then have a bit of a kicking contest that ends with Uren putting a beauty of a 50-22 in to get Benetton in good position, but then Dweber turns it over for the Stormers. Stormers then have a chance to attack from a line out on the edge of the 22, but Nicola Canone gets up and nicks it for Benetton, and then they kick it clear. Blomachis though runs it right back pretty much to the same spot. Just sliced through the heart of that Benetton defence. Stormers then win a penalty. They go to the corner. Dweba off target with his throw, and the chance is just completely gone. Benetton then offside. Stormers, they come forward. It's all kind of very frantic from both sides, and the loose balls were kind of just about bouncing for the Stormers at this point, but not enough for them to actually get over for that score that might have actually given them the victory. They win a penalty, kick it to the corner. Not the best kick, honestly. I think it was Blomachis kicked it, and leaves them more than 10 meters to the line. Could have easily been right into the corner on this one, but Dweba, he hits his man. Stormers, to hold on to the ball, but then they get pushed back all the way to the halfway line from, as I said, about 10 meters out. Benetton then get right into the passing channel. I don't know who it was, but they pick off a pass and just punt the ball down into the Stormers 22. Stormers then repel Benetton's attempt at attack, but they do concede a penalty about 40 meters out for not rolling away. Benetton then, they decide they're going to the corner, looking to seal the victory. They go to the maul. Stormers collapse it. Benetton decide they're going back to the corner. They keep it tight with one out runners running down the clock and threatening the line. Looked like at one stage they had penalty advantage, but when they go for a crossfield kick, Stormers get the ball and it's play on, and then there's a bit of a mess where they kind of tried to clear it, but then Benetton knock it over the try line and Stormers ground, so it's goal line dropout to them. They kick that, but then Benetton managed to run down the clock, at least in the stadium, because we had about, it doesn't sound like much, we had about 7 seconds to play on the at least URC TV clock that I was watching, but referee says that's the game over. 2017, great win for Benetton there. Now let's have a look at some of the stats from the game. So starting with attack, 2 tries to 3. Stormers when they did get in position at times, especially with that maul, they looked very dangerous, and a couple of the scores came from that. Benetton, they probably had the better knife from the tee in terms of just keeping those points going, and maybe that was, it looked like in the end just enough to get the win for them. Possession 55% for Benetton to 45 for Stormers, and Benetton really holding onto the ball, but not necessarily getting all that much penetration with it. And you see that from clean breaks, only 3 clean breaks from them, but just 4 from the Stormers as well. It wasn't really a running game from either team. Defenders beaten 12 for Benetton, 16 for the Stormers. Offloads, Benetton with 5, Stormers at 1. It was one of these games though where there was no kind of standout offload that kind of set up a score or a massive break or anything like that. It was just kind of moving the ball away from the point of contact. On defence then, territory 60% for Benetton, 40 for Stormers. So you can see Benetton really were on top, but Stormers, they're even though they lost this, they're enough of a quality outfit that even with few chances they can still get enough scores to be in the game. Just they weren't at it enough today, I felt, to actually press for that win, and things like the line out really let them down in that regard. Number of tackles then, just 67 from Benetton, 112 from the Stormers. Missed tackles 7 from Benetton, 11 for the Stormers. Tackle success then both at 91, which is excellent for the URC level. Turnovers 1, 3 for Benetton, 4 for the Stormers. On to kicking then. Kicks retained 4 each. It really was very competitive in with the kicks. There was a lot of kind of up and unders going up rather than just kicking for distance. Kicking success, ignore it, as I always say. Penalties conceded then, very low actually. 6 penalties from Benetton, 5 from the Stormers. And, it kind of speaks as well to the way the game was played. There wasn't really any periods where either team were, putting the other under massive pressure on the line. That's normally where you see a lot of penalties getting conceded. It was more kind of in fits and starts, and although the Stormers had kind of the better of the scrums, the ball, Benetton, when they were under pressure, they had to get the ball out quick enough not to concede penalties there as well. In terms of players then, I think like looking at the stats of one player, which is Lorenzo Canone. He had the most meters carried of either team with 31. Zas at 21 was the best for the Stormers. But also then, if we look at the tackling stats, then Lorenzo Canone, top tackler with 11, the same as Marcel to Unison. But honestly, to Unison, it really was very defensive from him. We're used to seeing him, being the linchpin in the Stormers' attack. But again, Stormers really not clicking in attack at all. So even though they scored 3 tries, never felt like they were going to create a massive line break to get that winning score. And, the fact that he was deployed or had to kind of get involved in the more of the defensive side of the game will tell you again about how things are going. But some decent performances on either side. I thought that Garbisi was very good for Benetton, and then on the Stormers side of things, there was the likes of Evan Roos was heavily involved and stuff, but unfortunately for him, it was some good, some bad in the game. He was winning penalties, was also conceding them. So with him, it's kind of, you have to net it out to see what his contribution was. I thought Lamro had a decent game for Benetton. That along with Negri and Lorenzo Canone as well, that back row did pretty well. Nicolo Canone, we saw in with him, like a lot of kind of getting up there and disrupting that Stormers line out, which has struggled for a lot of the season, so not making life easy for Entebeni or Dweba when he came on either. But yeah, very well deserved win. Albanos as well, gotta mention him. Thought he did really well starting at 10, but a really good win for Benetton now. Potentially, depending on what happens with Connacht, they could be the only side unbeaten left in the competition. But I think the problem that they have is they may be like unbeaten, but they're not getting bonus point victories. And you can see already, like with their position in the table before this game with 2 wins and a draw, where they were way down the table, that getting those bonus points is going to count in the long run. They need to have a bit more threat going forward. But Stormers, they haven't, like, I think a lot of the South African teams actually haven't quite looked just there yet this season. Now, whether that's kind of a, World Cup hangover or anything like that, not sure, because it's only now really that we're seeing any players that were involved at all in the World Cup making appearance for any teams in the competition, let alone the South African teams. So, you can't really, I think, put it down to that. But there's something quite not clicking for those teams. But we know that the likes, especially the Stormers and the Bulls, that they're they can click and go on long runs of victories as well. So the fact that they're not right at the top leading the way at the moment doesn't mean that they're not going to be there later on at the sharp end of the season. And as well, just talking about the Bulls for a second, the Bulls have kind of almost a Jekyll and Hyde thing where they've looked excellent in some games this season and then they've looked poor. I think they had, that like the game where they lost, like they just didn't seem to have it. And that's kind of the Bulls of last year as well, where it was that kind of thing of some great performances, but some performances in games where you thought they'd continue on and they just didn't. But yeah, Stormers going to bounce back from this. But now Benetton, they're riding high. They've improved season on season. They now need to kind of back this up and keep it going through the rest of the season and be up there with the Irish provinces, the likes of Glasgow and the South African provinces as well, and be right in that mix to potentially not just sneak into the knockout stages, but can they keep this up and actually push for potentially a home quarterfinal as well? Long way to go in the season, but they'll be very pleased with how they started it.